All right, what's up, everybody? Daniel Barrett here from AdWords Nerds. It's a nice, quiet. It's quiet in the office today. Just did some work on the podcast, and now I'm going live because I got a bunch of inquiries about my experience seeing Perry Marshall. So Perry Marshall, if you're not familiar, is a really, really awesome marketing guru, I guess you want to say. He's probably most famous for the book 80/20 Marketing. But he's written a lot about AdWords, done a lot of training with one of my favorite AdWords experts, which is Mike Rhodes, who's over in Australia. Just really great stuff. The guy's been around forever and really, really smart and really driven on the idea that data is where the answer is for marketing. And that's something that obviously is like something that's very close to my heart. So anyway, Perry had an event here in Connecticut, down in Greenwich. I saw the ad on Facebook because of course I did. Actually, we talked about why I saw the ad, which is interesting in and of itself, but saw the ad on Facebook. I said, hey, we got an event coming up in Connecticut. It was like $1,000. I was like, I have to go see this thing. And so, I just signed up. It was a 45-minute hour drive for me. So drove down there, and it's kind of expecting like 100 people or so. There were 12 people in this room. So basically got a really intense one-on-one mastermind with Perry Marshall for like the entire day. It was like 9 to 5. Really amazing value. If you ever get a chance to go see one of these workshops, I highly recommend that you check it out. But a couple things. I wanted to go over my notes. You can see here, these were the notes I took during the event. I'm going to go over my biggest, all the way. Yep. I'm going to go over my biggest takeaways. I'm literally just going to take them straight from the notes. A lot of this stuff actually I'm going to be incorporating into some of our work. So you're going to see some of this stuff coming from me. It actually lined up really well with stuff we were already testing in AdWords Nerds, but it just kind of like solidified a lot of stuff for me. So a couple main takeaways. First thing I wanted to get into, this was probably one of my biggest takeaways from this, was the thing that I kind of heard of but didn't really understand, really, really excited me, which is the idea of RFM. And RFM being a framework for sort of niching down a list and finding the audience that's most likely to respond to an ad, to buy a new product, to upgrade, whatever it is, right? You want to get the maximum result from the smallest number of people. RFM is the way that you do it. So what is RFM? What does that stand for? RFM stands for recency, frequency, and money, right? Money could really just be value because you can actually spin this in a lot of different ways, but the classic example is recency, frequency, money. Well, what does that mean? How do we use it? Well, let's say we got a list of people, a mailing list, a customer list, whatever it is. We want to try to find the segment of that list that's the most likely to respond to a new message we're trying out. So the way that we sort of slice and dice these leads is, you imagine you get a big spreadsheet, you put everyone on it, and you're going to give them a grade. And the grade is on 3 different categories: recency, frequency, and money. Recency is the first one. Who is the most recently bought from you? What was the latest point that they bought from you? Did someone buy from you yesterday? Did someone buy from you 3 weeks ago? Did someone buy from you a year ago? That's recency, right? And this kind of blew my mind. I sort of understood this, but I actually asked this question live. I said, all right, let's say we were talking about liquor store as an example. And I said, okay, so walk through this with me, because let's say we take a list of everyone that's coming to the liquor store, and I'm trying to sell, let's say, Jack Daniels. And I've got a guy who came in yesterday and bought a handle of Jack Daniels. And Perry was saying, right, the person who most recently bought from you is the most likely to buy from you in the future. And I said, well, this guy just bought a handle of Jack Daniels. He's probably not going to need a handle of Jack Daniels today, right? And he said, yeah, actually he is. Because just chances are the people who are like the crazy buyers that buy the most often, that just buy all the time, they're most likely to have come in recently. And so it's not the only metric that you use, but it's one of the 3 that makes a big difference. So you say, okay, the most recent purchasers are most likely to become a purchaser from me again in the future. Cool. So that's recency, right? Frequency, how often do they buy from me? Or how often do they perform the task at hand, right? So do they come in once a week? Do they come in twice a week, 3 times a week? They come in 5 times a month, 6 times a month, whatever it is. The more frequently someone buys from you, the more statistically likely they are to buy from you again. So that's the recency, right? How recently did they buy? We got the frequency. How frequently do they buy? And then we've got money, which is the value of that transaction. How much money do they spend with me? Do they spend $10 when they come in? They spend $50 when they come in? They spend $1 million when they come in? And so if you have these 3 categories, the recency, the frequency, and the money, you can give everyone a grade in each category, turn those into an overall grade, and then take the 20%, the top 20%, of all the people in all those categories, and that's your audience. This, for me, was a big eye-opener because the very first thing I thought of was keywords. Keywords, keywords, keywords. One of the problems we struggle with is grading keywords. You think about something we do, we're grading keywords for investors at a national level. At a national level all the time. Hundreds of thousands of impressions a day. Every single day. How do you grade the performance of a keyword that's like, can be, for this person, it's their best keyword. For this person, it doesn't do anything. And the answer, it occurred to me, is the RFM model can be applied to a keyword. Recency. When was the most recent date that keyword generated a lead? Frequency. How often in a week or a month does that keyword generate leads? And money. Does the keyword generate a deal, and how much is the deal value of those deals? If you don't know deal value per keyword, you could swap this out for something like time on site. An incredibly valuable mental model. Probably that alone was worth the entire $1,000 investment. More than that, 50 to 100 times more than that. I mean, incredibly valuable. I was super, super excited. Something else we talked about. Now, I think a lot of investors are going to know this, but this kind of really solidified it for me, is the time value of a lead. The time value of a lead. That the amount of time that goes by, your leads decrease in value, right? So if you get someone the moment they call you, you pick up. That's the highest moment of value. But if you call them the next day, their value goes down. You call them 2 days from now, the value goes down. A week from now, the value goes down. Well, Perry's point, which kind of really stirred something up in me, is that this is not a linear progression where leads get gradually less and less valuable. What it is a logarithmic progression where they are, we're up here at 100% value, but then we're 10 times less valuable, then 100 times less valuable, and then 10,000 times less valuable. And the drop off is massive. It is not minor, it is massive. And so what this for me really drove home is, as AdWords nerds, we're so focused on lead generation, we often forget the value of teaching our clients the follow-up and having an automated follow-up system that allows you to capture 100% of the value. This was massive for me. It blew my mind because the lead that we generate for a client is worth a certain amount right now, and it's worth 100 times less tomorrow. Not a little bit less, 100 times less. That was really, really fascinating to me. I really enjoyed that. What else did I find really valuable? Oh, something really valuable. Perry's big on retargeting. So are we. We've been doing a ton of retargeting testing lately. The market's so wild right now. I'm sure if you're running any paid traffic for motivated sellers, you have seen costs just kind of balloon through the roof. And the question's always been like, well, how do we fight that? Retargeting has been a big way for us to fight that, just capturing more and more, preventing leaks in the bucket. Perry had a really interesting way of dividing his retargeting channels, and it's on a quadrant. So imagine a quadrant, so you divide a square in 4 squares. And this vertical axis right here is between live channels and recorded channels. And then the horizontal axis right here is between text channels and audio-visual channels. Okay, so we've got live, recorded, text, and audio-visual. Okay, it's weird because it's like opposite for me in the camera, so it looks all weird. So anyway, in this quadrant, you have live text. In this quadrant, you have live audio-visual. In this quadrant down here, you've got recorded text. And in this quadrant down here, you've got recorded audio-visual. So he's like, you should have retargeting channels in each quadrant. because that covers essentially both chronological and like sort of ways of that people digest information. And it's going to give you the sense of being everywhere. So a couple examples, right? So what's a live text channel? Well, that would be something like a Facebook Messenger or a website chat. Right? What's a live audiovisual channel? That would be something like doing a Facebook Live to a retargeting audience. What's a recorded text channel? That's email, right? Automated email, automated text, whatever. Yeah, text message that's live would be a live text as well. But you could do recorded text or bots. And then recorded audiovisual would be something like a video ad on Facebook or a YouTube ad. This was really interesting to me as a way of dividing up all the different ways that you could possibly retarget someone and be everywhere. Perry is very big on being everywhere. That's something that we are more and more focused on. You know, like traditionally we've divided our services like AdWords at Facebook or blah, blah, blah. I think really going forward, it's going to be all one giant thing. It's always been one giant thing, but I think we're finally catching up to thinking of it as just one giant thing. You go online, you digest information from all sorts of different channels and all sorts of different modalities, and you kind of got to hit them all at once. You got to hit them all at once. You got to be everywhere in order to really capture the value of those leads. Really, 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 really interesting. What else? I had one more, which was my biggest one. Ad cycling. This is something I was already talked about in my mentorship program. We're going through, we're relaunching that program in the next month or so. And I've been kind of going back over that content. And one of the things that has the single biggest impact on our students, if I look at students and I say like, all right, who did deals, who didn't, who was successful, who didn't, right? One of the number one things that the successful students do is this ad cycling process. They actually go through it, right? And what this is a systematic process of rewriting your ads and landing pages, rewriting them, trying to come up with new ads all the time, having a systematic way of testing them. Perry was talking about this. He's got his own way of doing this, but it was like basically a complete lineup with what we were already thinking about. Because when you look at an investor ad or an investor landing page or an investor website, what do you see? They're all the same. We buy houses. Get a fair offer. It's like everything's exactly the same. The pitch is the same. The offer is the same. The copy is the same. The image is the same. Everything's the same, man. And the reason those ads are all the same is because those ads generally work. They work pretty well. They're effective. They tell motivated sellers what you do. I mean, they're not bad by any means, but there is a huge value add to being the one that can find the ad that connects with the audience that's different. Oh, right? You find the ad or the landing page or the approach or the offer or the copy that's different from what everybody else is doing. There's a huge value add in that. I mean, that is worth, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, problem is, I'm not a great copywriter. You might be, but most people aren't. I can't think in my head and come up with something that is absolutely going to beat the market average. But what you can do is have a system in place to systematically test new ads. And this could be as simple as once a week, you come in and you make one ad and you throw it in the ad group and you just run it for a month. That could be the entire system. But having a system to cycle through your ad creatives, coming up with new copy, coming up with new images, this is worth, I mean, I feel like people think I make these numbers up. I'm not making this up. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit a year just by doing this. It just really drove it home for me. It was just something that like I had written down. It was actually in my notebook before I even went to the thing. Perry started talking about it and I was like, this is exactly what I've been talking about, but he had a really, really nice way of phrasing it. I got a ton out of this event. I got to say, this is one of my favorite marketing events. Now, I will say, you know, this is sort of a higher level event. He has an event coming up, and I'm going to pitch it. I don't make anything for pitching you on Perry Marshall stuff, but it's called the Paradigm Shift. He's got it coming up. It looks like a really interesting program where they do a lot of this for you. And I think the event I was at is relatively high level. I got a ton out of it because I know how to apply a lot of what I learned. I think if you didn't have that background, it might have been a little bit harder to apply some of that stuff. But like I said, Perry's got other events coming up that like kind of are going to do that for you. But overall, got a ton of value. Was super happy with it. Let me know if you have any questions. Hey, what's up? Jesus, Marco, nice to see you guys. Happy to answer stuff in the comments if you want to drop a line, have any questions for me on what I learned there. But really, really valuable stuff. I hope this was valuable to you guys. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to you soon. Cheers, everybody. Bye.